Everyone, welcome, welcome. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes, as soon as everyone is admitted.
Yeah, it takes a little while to get joined here.
Is my screen reading properly?
Yep, looks good.
All right.
Alrighty.
So a few more coming in.
So we'll give a minute or two for the last ones to join us, and then we will get started on Crochet Basics. So if you feel comfortable, you can feel free to turn, excuse me, feel free to turn on your camera, not turn it off. Oh, wow, great start. So feel free to turn on your cameras if you feel comfortable doing that. We love to see your faces. It makes it a little bit easier than just, talking to ourselves on our screen. So we'll admit a few last people and we will jump right into Crochet Basics. So welcome everyone to our Tutorial Tuesdays hosted by Zen Yarn Garden. My name is Anik St. Louis. I am a yarn rep and teacher here in Canada, Great White North, which feels very cold today, but it's almost spring-ish. With us tonight also is Suzanne Nielsen, who is a rep on the West Coast in the United States.
Hello.
And also with us, she might show her hand, is Roxanne, who is the, there she is, head honcho here at Zen Yarn Garden. She is all things creative director, and we love her dearly. So because she allows us to do these Tutorial Tuesdays, which we actually enjoy and which allows us to teach and do what we love to do, which is knit, crochet, talk about yarn all day. I'm in. So without further ado, we will jump right into Crochet Basics. So gonna admit a few people and then we are going to jump to my hands. Hello, everyone. So today we are going to zip through the very basics of crochet. So we are going to look at crochet chain, which I will hold up here a little bit closer so we can see. Crochet chain, which as knitters you may have seen before. Slip stitches, which this is not the usual use for slip stitches, but it just shows that you can. We are also going to be doing half double crochet, a double crochet, sorry, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and treble. So all of these will be covered tonight. So without further ado, let's jump right into our chain. So chain, and of course I had started doing something, so there we go. All right, so to start, like most everything that we do with yarn, we start with a slip knot. So very simple slip knot. I like to use the tail end of my slip knot as the tightening or end of the slip knot, just because it makes it easier to kind of finish it nicely at the end, but feel free to do whichever, it really doesn't matter. So Crochet Basics 101, holding the crochet. If you do decide that you're going to become a crocheter, you will find a way of comfortably holding your crochet hook. I have seen people holding it underneath, like I hold my pencil. I'm an over the crochet holder myself. That will really depend on what you find most comfortable and the way that you learn it. So here we go. Now, in order to crochet a chain, you're basically pulling yarn through a loop, just like we do in knitting, except in knitting we work with a whole bunch of loops at a time. In crochet, you're always ever working with one. So whether you're doing a chain, single crochets, half doubles, triples, trebles, double trebles, triple trebles, you're always ever working with one loop, with one stitch at a time. So you'll only ever have this. The only exception to that, of course, is Tunisian crochet, but we're not going to be touching on that tonight. So, because that's a different technique.
Yes.
All right. So the other major difference between knitting and crocheting is in knitting, if you're a picker, which Suzanne is a picker, I'm a thrower mostly, but I do pick sometimes. You will have a tendency to want to go in front of the crochet hook. This is not the way to do it in crochet. Unfortunately, in crochet, it's actually easier to go beneath and behind because you're actually doing a reverse yarn over to what we usually do in knitting. So reverse yarn over, which is a regular yarn over for crochet, but for us knitters, it's a reverse one. And we're going to pull it through the existing loop. Now you see how I've got one crochet chain made and one on my crochet. And I'm going to keep doing that, pulling it through, always going under and behind and pulling through. Now, as you work the crochet chain, you can pop up what you're pinching in order to avoid tightening the previous stitch that you did. Now, if that happens, it's okay, because unlike knitting, where if you take out your needle from all your stitches, well, you've got a whole bunch of live stitches. In crochet, you've only ever got the one. So you accidentally make a mistake, it's okay. I'll pinch right beneath the mistake and pull it out and start over. So to crochet a chain, I'm going to keep going, always going under and behind and through, under, behind, through. Pinch a little higher, under, behind, and through. And as I go along, now your pattern will always tell you how many crochet chains. And another good thing, which is very different from knitting, is that you see immediately how big your piece is getting. Whereas in knitting, oftentimes you got to finish and take it off the needles in order to say, oops, my hat is 7 inches too big. Well, in crochet, you see it immediately, how big and how wide your piece is going to be. So here we've got an indeterminate number of stitches because I was not counting. And we are going to head straight into single crochets. Now up close, our single crochet looks like that. Now this is great for anything that needs to be a little bit dense, because as you can see, it is quite thick. And it's quite tight. Even if I stretch it out, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in here. So without further ado, let's jump right into single crochets. Now, a lot of crocheters will work directly into the loops, which, if you look closely, kind of look like a row of knitting. Now, a lot of crocheters will go straight into that top loop. I am one of the weird ones that actually prefers to work in the back bumps, because I like my my cast on and my cast off to look exactly the same, and that is what the result will be. Some people find it a little too fiddly. I don't mind fiddling because it's going to be prettier in the end, is my thoughts. So I'm going to go work into the back bumps here. I'm going to poke through. Now you'll always have this first step. After the chain, there's always this first step, which is attach it to your work. Look, I've got 2 loops. Then I'm going to yarn over again and through both loops. So once again, I poke, I attach, and then I yarn over, pop through 2 loops. Now remember that for later, popping through 2 loops. That's going to be important because it's going to come back a lot. So I'm going to keep going in single stitches, single crochets here. So again, I'm just popping into the back loop, yarn over, attach my work. I'm basically moving forward by attaching. Yarn over again, pop through 2 loops. I always come back. I should always finish with 1 loop on my crochet hook. This is the most important. At the end of your stitch, you come back to 1. So I'm going to finish this row in single crochets. So poke in, yarn over, attach, yarn over, 2 loops. Myself a little bit loose here. All right, so we're going to make it to the end here. Yarn over, attach, yarn over, 2 loops. Yarn over, sorry, poke through, yarn over, attach, yarn over, 2 loops. Poke through, yarn over, attach, yarn over, 2 loops.
And
Now,
I've
when I
seen
get to-
patterns say just like the, the attach is just pull through. So it might be like just pull
Yes.
through 1 and then pull through 2.
Exactly. So pull through 1 is really it's what's allowing
attaching.
you to move forward.
Yes.
Basically. So there we go. Now I get to the end of my little row, which is really tiny. That's okay because it's a quick demo. And I'm going to turn around as if I was turning the page of a book. Do you guys remember paper books? I remember paper books. I miss paper books. However, I'm going to turn the page just like a paper book. And now I'm going to do what is called a turning chain, because crochet, as you can see, goes up very quickly. So if I was just to continue in single crochets, my first one here, which as you can see is still on the previous level, would be all smooshed. So a turning chain, and the chain, we remember we started with that one. Oh, here it pops up again. So I'm going to crochet chain 1 because a single crochet is 1 chain high. Ta-da! Single crochet, 1 chain high. So I'm going to do 1 single crochet right here. Now, normally next would be the half double crochet. However, we're going to skip and come back to this one. And we are going to go straight to a double crochet. Now, why would we skip the half double? Well, because it's simpler to go from the single to the double and come back to the half double, which is halfway between these 2. So once you know both, it's easy to do the half double. Now, as you can see, there is quite a bit of height difference. This is 9 rows. This is also 9 rows. So as you can see, we're really going up in height. Now, double crochet is very similar to your single crochet, because once you've got your chain and your single crochet, everything else is going to be a variation on those. So just like in knitting, everything is a variation on your knit stitch, including your purl. Everything's going to be a variation of that. Everything is going to be a variation of your single crochet. So first variation, the double crochet. A little extra step. I'm going to start with a yarn over. Before I do anything else, I'm going to start with a yarn over. Then I'm going to go poke into my next chain. Now, kind of glossed over that, but where am I going to poke once I've done my base chain, which was the first row that we did? These look vaguely like a row of stitches in knitting. So I'm actually going to be picking up the whole thing, both legs. See how I've got the little V here? I picked up both of these. Now, yes, there are instances where you're only going to pick up the front or only the back, but generally you're picking up both. So now I've got my original loop, my yarn over, and I've poked through both of the legs of the stitch. First step, just like the single crochet, I'm going to yarn over and pull through to move forward. first step, always. Now I end up with 3 loops. Now remember how I told you way back when, remember that we're gonna yarn over and pull through 2? Well, now we're gonna yarn over and pull through 2 until we only have 1 left. What I mean by that is yarn over, 1 and 2. Oh, look, now I have 2. Yarn over, 1 and 2. And that is a double crochet. So once again, start with a yarn over. Your double crochet starts with a yarn over. I'm going to go poke through both legs of the row below, yarn over, attach, just like a single crochet. Then I'm going to yarn over again and pull through 2 loops until I work back to 1. So yarn over, 1, 2, yarn over, 1, 2, and I'm back to 1. So I'm done my stitch. Yarn over, poke through the next, yarn over, attach, and then I complete the stitch by yarn over, 2 loops at a time, yarn over, 2 loops at a time until I'm back to 1. So yarn over, yarn over.
And I've
attach.
seen a lot of times, like at this stage, it'll say, even though she went under both chains there, it still just says pull through 1, right?
What do you mean pull through 1?
It'll say like pull through 1 and then pull through 2, pull through 2 in the instructions.
In the instructions, it'll actually just say double crochet.
Right. But when it's telling you, like when you look for what a double crochet is, it'll say,
Yes.
you know, pull through 1 and then pull through
1,
2, pull
and
through
then
2.
2 at a time. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the end of my row. As you can see, I've got my single crochet way back here, which kind of scrunches down my row. And then the rest are all nice and lovely. So what do I do when I get to the end of the row? I turn the page of my book. Now a double crochet, it's got double in the name, so I'm gonna double up the chain. Look at that. You'll never forget it. Some will do 3. I prefer 2 because I'm a bit of a loose chain crocheter. So your pattern will actually tell you how many stitches to do your turning chain. All right, so here we go again for the double crochet. Yarn over, first step. And then I'm going to go. Now, your turning chain, I can pull this down, counts as your first stitch. So when I'm going to go work my first stitch of the row, I'm not going to go work into this first one where my turning chain is popping out of. I'm actually going to go into the next over, which is technically my first stitch since this was my turning chain. So I'm going to go here, poke in, attach, and then yarn over, 2, yarn over, 2. So that was the double crochet. Now, Suzanne, I do believe that we have a little bit of a interlude planned right now.
Yes. We'll switch over. We have a special discount code for people here today. So our discount code is crochet, and that does get you 20% off of anything on the Zen Yarn Garden website. And we do have a couple fun things coming up. One, the deadline to register for this lovely shawl. This is the Rainbow Warrior shawl, and we're doing a knit along with this coming up. So this one, you can register for it, and the 20% off is good for the knit along, the yarn, the kit, everything. And this is just a really fun one. It has some neat, it's pretty simple still, color work. It's nice, but we'll go through everything, all the techniques you need to know, and a nice picot edge. So that will be a fun one. It's just 2 sessions long, starting May 2nd. So do check that out and come join us for that. And yeah, now back to you, Nick.
Thank
And
you.
then back to your hands.
So now that we've done our little interlude, we are going to go back to the in between the single crochet and the double crochet, which is boop, the half double crochet. Now you will understand when I show you how to do this one, why we kind of learned both of these first and then came back to this one. So I'm going to pop these out of the way. And we're going to do the half double crochet. Now, half double, I guess it could be a double single too. Half double. So it's going to start like a double with a yarn over. And then it's going to continue just like the double or the single, which is to go into your next stitch, yarn over, pull through to attach. And then here's where it gets weird, because this is the only one you're going to do this. You're going to yarn over, and then you're going to pull through everything on your crochet. So instead of pulling up, yarn over, pulling up through two, yarn over, pulling up through two, I yarned over and I pulled through everything that was on my crochet hook, which was 3 loops. So once again, half double, yarn over just like the double, go into my stitch, attach by yarn over, pull through. And now instead of doing yarn over 1, 2, yarn over 1, 2, I'm going to yarn over 1, 2, and 3 all together. Ta-da. Done. So yarn over, poke through, yarn over, attach, yarn over, 1, 2, 3 loops. Now, why would we bother with a halfway in between? Well, because we need something in between. So this is the single crochet. It's nice and tight, very dense. And this is your double crochet, which is a little bit looser. As you can see, it's got a little bit more give. It's also much taller than your single crochet, which is right here. The half double, if we look at it up close, actually looks kind of different from the single, because you've got that extra loop that you're pulling through. So it's a little bit looser. It really is halfway between the single and the double. There we go. So
All right.
once again,
Before you go, we have
yes.
another just any suggestions on how to hold your yarn? Do you tension it? Well, I tension mine just like I do with knitting, because I'm a
exactly
picker.
Yep.
But Nick, you do have to tension yours a little differently, because normally you throw.
I do. Normally I'm a thrower. So normally when I'm knitting, I hold in my right. When you crochet, I do tension like I do when I pick.
Yeah. So you don't really have a choice when you are crocheting. You have to kind of become a picker.
you do kind of have to get that movement in. As to, sorry, I'm kind of kicking around my table here. Sorry about that, everyone. So in order to tension, obviously, as knitters, if you're used to tensioning your yarn, it's going to be a little bit easier. Like with every new technique, it's going to take time. There's no getting around that. We aren't born, innately how to do this. The fact that we are knitters helps with getting the whole, okay, I'm feeling a little tight here. So some people I've seen do 2. I've actually seen some people that have 3, which
and I don't. I wrap it once around my pinky, and then
over.
Yeah.
So which is exactly how I hold when I throw. But on the other hand.
Yeah.
So it really is a question of preference. There's no right way and wrong way. There's a right way and a wrong way for you.
for you. Yeah, you gotta test it out.
So
So
it
somebody
really-
was asking about like the rings, the tension yarn. I haven't had much luck. I have tried a couple different ones, but to me, it's just easier without them. But for you, you know, one of those rings might help. It might be worth trying it.
it could.
But
It could. So I've just gotten to the end here of my half double crochet row. So what do
and
I
then
do
we
when I
had
go-
another question. So do one more row and show us how many turning stitches for the half double.
So the half double, again, because it's halfway between a single and a double, it really is your choice. Your pattern will tell you chain 3, and then it'll say this counts as your first half or your first double, or it'll say chain 2, this counts as your first half double. I chain 2 for this one as well. I find it does give me a little bit of a ruffle on the edges, but I don't find it bothersome. Really, it doesn't bother me. So it'll really depend on how tightly you crochet chain. Because if you're a very tight crochet chainer, I don't think that's a word, but let's invent words tonight. If you're a very tight crochet chain person, 2 will definitely be needed. If you can manage to keep it very loose, 1 might be all you need. So it really is a question of personal preference, but technically 2 is what you should be doing for the half double. So before we run out of time, let's quickly go to the tallest of the stitches that we're going to look at tonight, which is the treble. And not trouble, treble, unless you call it a troublesome treble, which, you know, could be troublesome. As you can see, this is a very tall stitch. So it's even taller than the double stitch, which we have here. I'll show you the same slide here. So this is the double here and the treble over here, which is amazingly enough, 1 chain longer. Oh, look, I have a feeling a couple of people have guessed where we're going with this. So in order to do my treble, I'm going to start with 4 crochet chains for my turning chain. Now, for the half double and the double, I did 1 yarn over. For the treble, because it's treble, I'm going to do 2. So I've wrapped my yarn around my crochet hook once, twice. Before I've even done anything, I've got 2 wraps and my loop on my crochet chain. Now, a good rule of thumb is you do kind of want to hold that because it gets a little loosey-goosey. Skip the first one here because that is my first one, which is my turning chain. Straight into the second. Yarn over, attach. That doesn't change. And then we're back to going yarn over, 1, 2. Yarn over, 1, 2. And yarn over, 1, 2. So 3 times I had to yarn over and go through 2 loops. So 1, 2 yarn overs to start with because a treble is treble. Poke through, yarn over, attach. So as you can see, I've got 4 loops here on my crochet chain, on my crochet hook. Yarn over 2 at a time until I'm back to 1. Yarn over, 1, 2. Yarn over, 1, 2. Yarn over, 1, 2. Now, for the very sharp-eyed among you, you may have noticed that what's actually happening during this is you're crocheting a chain and wrapping the yarn around it is what's going on. So if you look very closely, I'm crocheting 1 and then it gets wrapped. Crocheting another, which then gets wrapped. And then I crochet the last one and complete the stitch. So anything beyond a treble, which can happen because you can get then a double treble, which you will be wrapping 3 times, a triple treble 4 times. After that, we don't call them quadruple trebles, quintuple trebles. It just gets to be a little bit of a mouthful. So it will tell you your pattern, if it wants you to do a very, 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 very tall stitch, will say, wrap your yarn around your crochet hook 7 times. In which case, we will wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And yes, I have seen this. And in order to complete that very elongated treble stitch, we're going to attach. And then everything else stays exactly like everything else that we've learned. Yarn over 1, 2. Yarn over 1, 2. Yarn over 1, 2. That doesn't change, except for the half double crochet. You will always be yarning over and then pulling through 2 of the loops on your crochet chain, on your crochet hook. Yarn over 1, 2. Oh, I'm almost done. Yarn over 1, 2. Yarn over 1, 2. And I've just completed my very elongated and now going off to the side. I think that was what, an octuple treble?
Yeah.
Yes, so your pattern will tell you. If it's a very, very elongated stitch, your pattern will tell you how many times to wrap around. Now I'm going to undo this because we got a question about where to poke. So since we're doing doubles, when you look at the top of the row below, right here, you see almost like a stitch, a knit stitch. You're going through both of those legs. So you're poking underneath both of the little legs of the V.
Kind of looks like a chain stitch on top of your crochet.
It does look like a floating chain stitch, yes. So I'm just going to complete this quickly. Bloop, bloop. So once again, it's right here. When you've got one in front of you, it's actually quite obvious. Also, when you're looking at it from the side, the taller your stitches are, the looser that space becomes. So if you can see it, it's actually right here. So this is, do you guys remember the bottom bump on the crochet chain? That's my bottom bump right there. And the top of my crochet chain is right here, my little V. So I'm going to be going between the bottom bump and the V. Boop, right there is where I poke. So we are, oh, we're over time. Ah, help. Ah. So I'm going to quickly do this last one now because we didn't look at a slip stitch. Slip stitches, very important, very useful.
Because you might see more slip stitches like as a finish on knitting too.
Yes, slip stitches. No, I did do this little sample to show slip stitches. This is not what we use slip stitches for because they're very, very tight and very, very low. It's usually to close when we're crocheting in the round. It's to close the round. Because it has no height, the slip stitch, it makes it so that your round is level, so that it'll look like this instead of like that when you get to the end. So as opposed to knitting, when we knit in the round, we actually end up knitting one ginormous spiral, which doesn't really have an, you know, because you're starting and knitting makes it so that you started here, but you're going to end here. In crochet, because we've got the slip stitch, which has no height, we actually complete a round on the same level we started it. So the slip stitch, now obviously I'm not in the round right now, but I can still show you the slip stitch. So since it has no height, you've probably guessed that we're not going to start with a yarn over. Just like the single crochet did not have one, and that was the lowest of the stitches that we learned so far. But we're still going to pick up the 2 legs of our previous row. And then remember how we attach and then we yarn over and then slip through 2 at a time. This time we're going to attach and complete the stitch all in one. And that is a slip stitch. So how do you remember how to do the slip stitch? It's easy. Yarn over and then just slip through everything. Slip, slip. Now, why do we keep this one for the end? Because it's the only one where you're not attaching, then yarn overing again. So the main difference between this one and a single crochet, the single crochet, you would yarn over, attach, yarn over, pull through 2. The slip stitch is poke through, yarn over, attach, and complete. So you're slipping through everything. And it is a very low stitch, which has practically no height. Obviously you're creating something, so it has a little bit of height, but this is the lowest of the stitches, but by far the least utilized. So, ooh, we're almost out of time. Well, we are out of time, but I really want to show you one quick little bonus round. I'm attached to my yarn. Look at that. Fortunately, I have these random scissors lying around. We're going to cut that. All right. Bonus round. Because in crochet, you are often going to be working in rounds. So if you're doing amigurumi or things like that, you are going to need to know how to crochet in the round. Bonus round. Here is what we call a magic ring. So I'm going to start with my tail end over my hand facing me. My working yarn, which is attached to my ball, behind. Now I'm just going to be holding my tail end here. My working yarn. I'm going to go wrap once and twice. Flip over. Now I've got 2 bars. Now, pirates knew what they were talking about when they said X marks the spot. I'm going to create that X over my fingers. So I just went with my working yarn up and over. I'm just going to hold it down here. So I've got the X across my fingers here. Trusty little crochet hook. I'm going to go under the top right leg of my X. And now instead of going under, I'm just going to go over. You see how my crochet hook went down? Because I just need to drag it back under the leg, flip it up. Then I'm going to go work my yarn over with my working yarn. As per usual, this looks familiar now, yarn over. And I'm going to chain 1. Now, why are you showing us this, Anik? This looks complicated. This is why I'm showing you. Because you're now ready to work in the round. So when you start your amigurumi with this magic ring, but you're like, yeah, but this is huge. Okay, Yeah, it's huge for now. Let me do a couple of single crochets here to start. So these are just going to be single crochets, no yarn overs, just yarn over. This is the equivalent of, remember when we would say poke in, attach, that's the equivalent. Yarn over, pull through 2. So single crochet, under, attach, yarn over, pull through 2. These are single crochets. Yarn over, under, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I'm just going to do quickly this because we really are out of time and I completely went over and I'm so sorry, but I'm sure no one's complaining about getting some extra. So here we have our single crochet chain here, my single crochets, and that weird loop-de-loopy thing that we did at the beginning. Now look what happens when I pull on my tail end. Oh, that extra starts disappearing, disappearing, disappearing. And what do I end up with? But a perfectly closed round. There it is. So, oh, what am I going to close this round with? Anik, you taught us today a slip stitch. So I'm going to close that round with a slip stitch. Slip, slip, and there we go. Now, if I need to, I can actually go back later and yank on that even more and close it off completely. And there we go. So that was a little bit quick. We just have time to look at how to start that one more time. So once again, magic ring, tail end in my open hand, working yarn in the back. Working yarn is going to wrap once, twice around my fingers. Flip over so that I'm looking at the top of my fingers. And then remember the pirates. X marks the spot. Now, all I'm doing is holding that so that it's not flopping around. There's no special technique to this. I'm just holding it so that my X remains true. Top right leg of my X, I'm going to go over. Then I'm going to scoop that yarn. Notice I'm not yarn over. I'm just scooping it back under. And then notice how I'm not letting go of my crochet chain in any way. I'm simply flipping it over so that the head is now facing me in a regular crochet position. I'm going to go yarn over with that working yarn, which my fingers are just holding. My right hand is doing all the work here. Yarn over, pull through, and we are ready to go. My pattern is going to tell me single crochet X number of stitches. Once I've single crocheted my X number of stitches, I pull my tail end so that everything magically just pulls in. Now this is why you don't want to pull your tail end right away because, well, you'll have nothing to work in. So,
but it should be able to slip back out too if you.
You should be able to slip that back out, yes. Although, you know, yeah, there we go. Although you can just practice.
Yeah, make it disappear altogether.
Well, yeah, if it disappears altogether, you're better off just taking it off and starting over. But there we go. So that was, in a nutshell, crochet for beginners.
Yay.
I hope everyone had fun.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Remember the crochet discount code at checkout. You've got it. It's good for 48 hours. So get hopping.
And join us next week. We have another Tutorial Tuesday. We're going to do seaming, or not seaming, weaving and ends. So a couple
Weaving and
different
ends.
Yeah.
Weaving and ends with Suzanne next week. So always a good tool to have in your basket of tools. It's like crocheting and seaming.
Yes.
And everything else we've been teaching in Tutorial Tuesdays, which we love to do. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Don't forget your discount code. It's good for 48 hours. And join us for the Rainbow Warrior, which will be great fun and a nice little addition to your spring wardrobe. So there we go. So thank you so much, everyone.
See you next week.
Have a great evening.